Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Tower Defense Era. My base is 100 million points stronger. Chapter 21. Oh, buy it. Level 2 base. Who can tell me how Su Ming did it? After upgrading the base, has anything changed? Where is Mr. Su Ming? What is the role of the Medal of Honor Pioneer? Is there only one honor? I'm crying, my base is about to be destroyed. Su Ming can still upgrade the base. I thought everyone was in the same situation, but I didn't expect that I was too weak. Su Ming, I'll give you a chance to hug my thigh. I advise you not to be ignorant. In the World Channel, the pod exploded in an instant. Countless chat texts are being refreshed crazily in the channel, making people dazzled. In the regional channels, many people know Su Ming, and many people frantically brush up their presence. Mr. Su Ming has been upgraded to level 2 base. Su Ming, that big guy who sells food and water every day. Yeah, I even bought a serving of spider meat. Master Su Ming, do you still remember me? I have traded with you several times, but I didn't expect that your base has been upgraded to level 2. Boss Su Ming, begging for a way to upgrade the base, or post a guide. Begging for +1. Didn't he take the lead by selling food and water for resources? As long as you don't exchange with him, he can get the honor of the pioneer. That's right. At the beginning, I thought I couldn't exchange resources with him, otherwise I would definitely be the first to upgrade the base. Upstairs is really sour. NMLGB, I'm going to starve to death, you want me not to trade? That's right, this kind of person is really disgusting, and he can't see others well. Hiding in their respective bases, the surviving people expressed their feelings one after another. Someone was shocked, surprised, and some people are jealous. Although they are still struggling to survive. But Su Ming undoubtedly gave them a big impact, and at the same time set a goal. Upgrade your base. And they all found out that not everyone is weak, just like Su Ming is strong enough to upgrade the base. Su Ming looked at the message on the chat message, but didn't speak. He didn't expect that the World Bulletin would appear when he upgraded his base. And he also inexplicably won a Pioneer Medal of Honor. At this time, the Medal of Honor was held in his hand, and a cold touch came. The medal was shining golden, and after looking it over and over again, I couldn't see what material it was made of. On the medal, there is a strange pattern engraved, which looks like a pattern of a certain weapon, or a symbol of a certain building. After looking at it for a long time, he didn't recognize the specific meaning. However, the news that the medal appeared made him overjoyed. Pioneer Unique. Pioneer Honor. You are the first to upgrade the base to level 2, and you are the pioneer of resisting disaster creatures. This is a supreme honor and will be worshipped by the world. But at the same time, when you get this medal, you also attracted the attention of the Calamity Forces. Herald's Power. Your defensive towers and guardian spirits will gain bonuses when dealing with and killing calamity creatures. Damage plus 10%, burst rate plus 50%. Su Ming directly ignored the column of honors for pioneers. Honors are for nothing, and they can't be eaten as food. Su Ming is not worried about the attention of the Calamity Forces. Pay attention to it, anyway, they will attack his base every day, there is no difference at all. And the bonus of damage plus 10% and burst rate plus 50% is the real benefit. After the upgrade, the entire base has undergone tremendous changes. At this time, Su Ming also began to observe the changes in the base. First of all, the base area has increased from 20 m*20 meters to 30 meters *30 meters, doubling the area. On the earth wall, the originally crowded space has now vacated a large area, and more defensive towers can be built. In the base, the originally dilapidated wooden houses have also undergone major changes. The walls are all made of stone and are very strong. The overall size of the house has also more than doubled, and has been divided into 4 rooms and a hall. Su Ming directly made 2 of the rooms into bedrooms and kitchens, while the other 2 rooms were temporarily vacant. Outside the house, the open space is larger and the area that can be planted is wider. Coincidentally, he picked up 3 bags of seeds in the past 2 days, corn, hemostatic grass, and raw blood grass, which happened to be ready for planting. Taking out his shovel, he went straight to clearing the planting area. Digging trenches, weeding. After a while, 4 1 meter *1 meter areas were reclaimed. Immediately, Su Ming picked up the shovel. Digging. Seed. Fill the hole. Watering. The whole process was done in one go. In less than an hour, all the seeds were planted. The previously planted vegetable seeds have grown green leaves and are thriving. The entire base gradually began to be full of vigor and vitality. After doing all this, he was also a little tired. After returning to the bedroom, he fell asleep directly. On the second day, Su Ming was still asleep when he was suddenly awakened by a cold notification sound. Warning. As a pioneer, you have already received the attention of disaster forces, and a large number of powerful disaster creatures are attacking your base along with the disaster frenzy. Warning. You as a pioneer. Warning. You as a pioneer. Su Ming straightened up like a carp, and sat up straight away. A large number of powerful disaster creatures are coming. How powerful is it? After warning 3 times in a row, Su Ming became slightly cautious in his heart. He walked out of the house without haste. At this time, the sky was just gray and bright, and the surrounding area seemed to be filled with a layer of gray mist, which looked extremely hazy. Su Ming walked up to the earthen wall and looked outside. At this time, there was silence outside the base, and nothing unusual happened. Only the black vortex is extremely conspicuous, but at this time it is slowly shrinking, as if it is about to disappear. As the frenzy over, Su Ming guessed. He continued to wait for a while, and everything outside the base was as usual. Bored, he yawned, lay down on the rattan chair and went back to sleep. Time passed by, and an hour later, Su Ming woke up, stretched his waist, and immediately felt extremely energetic. Cuckoo. His stomach began to protest. It's dinner time. Su Ming had a headache and didn't know what to eat. He opened the Points Mall and started searching. After a while, his eyes lit up and he muttered, "Let's eat hot pot for this meal." A total of 50 points were spent, and he directly exchanged for a self-heating stone pot and bottom material. However, his current food is only meat, which is too simple. How can you only eat meat when eating hot pot? He directly opened the trading platform, hung up 500 milliliters of water and 1 caddy of meat. Seller. Su Ming. Trading items. 100 milliliters of drinking water or 200 grams of meat. Requirement. All kinds of finished vegetables. Stock. 15. Write the transaction information and publish it directly. At this time, the regional chat channel. Boss Su Ming started trading drinking water again. This time there is meat. You have a big mouth, right? You must make it known to everyone. There's still meat. Haha, I've eaten a lot of amano berries, so I have to trade them. I'm crying, I don't have any vegetables, but I want to eat meat. Is Mr. Su Ming here? You don't eat good meat, why do you exchange so many vegetables? Seeing someone asking, Su Ming replied silently, eat hot pot. Quote. As soon as this remark came out, everyone immediately exploded. What? I'm still playing with mud, Mr. Su Ming is already eating hot pot. Awesome, eating hot pot is not easy. The premise is that you need a pot of drinking water, which can keep me drinking for several days, woohoo. The bread in my hand is suddenly tasteless. In the future, only those who eat hot pot can be called big bosses. Boss, promise me, don't throw away the soup after eating, okay? You eat meat, I eat soup. Drink soup +1, At this stage, drinking water and meat are still scarce items. In less than a minute, he exchanged for bundles of vegetables. Potatoes, cabbage, lotus root, mushrooms. Immediately, he began to peel the vegetables, wash them, and cut them into slices. Vegetables and meat ingredients are all ready. He put the hot pot base ingredients into the stone pot, and then poured in the clean water that was 80% full. After about 10 minutes, the pot began to gurgle and steam. A seductive fragrance hit his nostrils, making him swallow involuntarily. After another 10 minutes, the soup in the pot boiled completely. It's time to cook. Su Ming was overjoyed, he couldn't wait, and poured a plate of sliced meat into it. But at this moment, rumble, suddenly, the ground shook slightly, and there was a huge roar outside the base. Su Ming's complexion changed and turned black. Don't come sooner or later, but I put the meat in the pot, so you're here. He put down the plate angrily and walked out. Walking up the city wall, a large number of disaster creatures are rushing towards his base outside. They roared and charged extremely quickly. Soon, They entered the attack range of the arrow tower. Whoosh! Countless arrows shot towards the disaster creatures below like rain. With 10 arrows per second plus 5 times the damage, almost all the calamity creatures that were shot were instantly killed. Su Ming stood on the city wall for a minute. These monsters were completely unable to break through his defense line, and were directly shot to death when they entered the attack range. Sudden. It's over. Su Ming slapped his head and shouted. After speaking, he hurried back to the house. He picked up the chopsticks and picked up the sliced meat from the hot pot. Looking at the fresh and tender color of the meat slices, Su Ming breathed a sigh of relief. It's a good thing it's not overcooked. With that said, Su Ming blew on the sliced meat, and then ate it into his mouth in one gulp. The entrance is fresh and smooth, and the aroma of the base material completely penetrates into the meat slices. Spicy and delicious. While chewing, the spicy refreshment burst out in the mouth, and a fine layer of sweat appeared on Su Ming's forehead, which was very refreshing. In a few minutes, he ate up the meat slices. Then, he began to put in various vegetables, potato slices, lotus root slices, enoki mushrooms. While the vegetables were still cooking, he walked up to the city wall to have a look, and found that all the monsters that attacked were almost dead. There are only a few scattered monsters running in the distance. Su Ming was speechless when he saw this. Warned me 3 times. That's it. How strong do you think it is? I haven't finished eating hot pot, so it's over. Thinking of this, Su Ming hurried back to the house and continued eating hot pot. Bah! Inside the house, the sound of Su Ming chewing could be heard constantly. Well, this corn is good, and the heat is just right. Lotus root slices are also available, crisp and delicious. Potatoes need to be boiled to make them softer and more delicious. Alas, the cabbage is ready, try it. What Su Ming eats is full of oil. I have to say that it is really comfortable to have a hot pot meal in this world. When others are still eating bread, it is definitely a noble enjoyment to have a hot pot meal. After a while, Su Ming emptied a pot full of dishes like a storm. At this time, he was already profusely sweating, and he burped comfortably. Wiping his mouth, Su Ming felt that he could barely move. Immediately, he slumped comfortably on the recliner. Half an hour later, it's almost time for Su Ming to rest. After resting, it's time to work. He stretched his body, ready to pick up the items dropped outside the base. He walked out of the wooden house unhurriedly, pushed open the iron gate, and appeared outside the base. As soon as he came out, Su Ming's eyes widened involuntarily when he saw the scene in front of him. I saw that outside the base, the corpses of disaster creatures had been piled up 7 or 8 meters high, like a hill. Next to the corpse, there are clusters of white light wrapped around the items. The number is very considerable, at least hundreds of them. This is the effect of plus 50% explosion rate. Su Ming was startled. At this time, he turned his head and found that the black vortex in the distance had disappeared, and everything had returned to its original appearance. It seems that this disaster frenzy is over. Su Ming thought to himself. Then he walked over and started picking up items. Ding, you picked up a lot of wood plus 3O. Ding, you picked up 1L of drinking water. Ding, you picked up the stone wall construction blueprint. Ding, you picked up the level 1 sentry tower upgrade blueprint. ... A bunch of items were picked up by him. The feeling of soaring resources is simply amazing. Half an hour later, he picked up all the items around the base. Back at the base, Su Ming took stock of the gains of the past 2 days. The calamity creatures that appeared in the past 2 days were either elite monsters or tier 2 monsters, which earned him a lot of points. Currently, his total points have reached 4,100 points. Moreover, the resources have also increased dramatically, and all kinds of construction resources have exceeded 1,000. Wood, 1,300, stone, 1,435, iron ore, 1,285. And what made him more concerned was that he obtained a blueprint for the construction of the stone wall and an upgrade blueprint for the sentry tower. Stone wall construction drawings. Construction required. 30 stone per meter. This blueprint can upgrade the earth wall of his base to a stronger stone wall. The only thing that gave Su Ming a headache was the huge consumption of stone materials. Currently, one side of his wall is 30 meters, and the 4 sides add up to 120 meters. If you upgrade them all, you need 3,600 units of wood. The total amount of stone materials he has now is far from enough. However, he was not in a hurry. After all, with the abnormal defense ability of his arrow tower, there are very few disaster creatures that can attack under his city wall. At this time, Su Ming took out another drawing. Level 1 Sentry Tower Upgrade Blueprint. Upgrade required. Wood 100, stone 100, iron ore 100. There are not many resources needed to upgrade the sentry tower, so he directly clicks to upgrade. After a bang, 10 seconds later, the sentry tower was upgraded, and its shape became taller and stronger. Level 2 Sentry Tower. Detection range, 100 meters. After the upgrade, the detection range of the sentry tower has doubled, and the effect is remarkable. Then Su Ming didn't stop, and continued to open the construction panel. Added 8 level 1 arrow towers directly on each city wall. Afterwards, all these arrow towers were upgraded to level 2. So far, after consuming 800 units of wood, stone, and iron, the total number of his level 2 arrow towers is as high as 80. After the upgrade of the base, the empty walls were once again filled with densely packed arrow towers. And you must know that these arrow towers are all equipped with 3 modules, and the output of one arrow tower can surpass dozens of ordinary arrow towers. After the construction was completed, Su Ming opened the points mall again. Soon, he searched for 2 suitable products. Double range module, 300 points Tier 1. After applying this mod, the range of all towers of the same type will be doubled. Acceleration charging module, 500 points First Order. After applying this module, all defensive towers of the same type will recharge by +1 per second. After exchanging 2 modules, he exchanged another 1000 points for 2 first-level module upgrade crystals. The 2 modules are directly upgraded to Tier 2. After upgrading, the double-range module becomes a triple-range module. He put it directly on the arrow tower. The shooting range of all arrow towers has been tripled, and the attack range has become 180 meters. No longer have to worry about being attacked by fast-moving monsters. And the acceleration module is upgraded to level 2, and the charging speed per second is +3. Put this module on top of the flame tower. Full energy reduced from 1000 seconds to 250 seconds. In other words, it only takes 4 points to fill the flame tower with energy, and the time for the sage is greatly shortened. So far, most of the resources he obtained in the disaster frenzy have basically been consumed. It has to be said that this disaster frenzy has brought him a lot of harvest. His base defense ability has also reached a very terrifying and perverted level. It was afternoon in a flash. Su Ming, who had nothing to do, lay on the rattan chair and opened the chat channel. Okay, someone looking for it. Su Ming saw that his private message bar kept flickering. Open the private message. Suddenly, he saw a familiar face. Lu Cixi. Su Ming, I didn't expect you to be so good that you were the first to upgrade the base to level 2. You should not be short of wood now. I am in urgent need of wood resources. You can use this to exchange attached photos. Quote. Need wood. Su Ming is quite impressed with this girl. When he traded with him for the first time, the lion opened his mouth. After being bullied by himself, his attitude in the second trade was much better. Of course, the most important thing is that she can always exchange good things with herself. Is there anything good this time? He opens the attached picture. Delicate light armor crafting blueprint. Exquisite light armor, close to the chest and back, can provide you with a relatively safe protection ability, and at the same time, the armor is light and will basically not affect your mobility. Crafting needs. Fine iron 10, flax 5. After reading the introduction, Su Ming was a little moved. This is armor that protects the individual, thus increasing the chances of survival. Su Ming asked, how do you want to exchange? After a while, the other party replied. Lu Cixi. 50 units of wood, is that okay? Su Ming. Why do you exchange this multi-wood? Lu Cixi. The wooden door of my base has been damaged, and a large amount of wood is urgently needed to repair it. If 50 wood is too much, 45 will do. Seeing the trembling tone of the other party, Su Ming smiled. Maybe this girl was scared by him. Now 5 lumber is nothing to him. Immediately, he replied. Just 50 pieces of wood, but I have a condition. Lu Cixi. What conditions? Su Ming. in the future, if there are such blueprints, or some special items, they will be traded with me first. Lu Cixi. Of course, no problem. The two reached a consensus. After Su Ming paid 50 units of wood, he successfully obtained the blueprint for making the exquisite light armor. The current problem is that he does not have refined iron and flax. Correct. It suddenly occurred to him that he still had a blueprint of a smelting furnace that could refine metals. Smelting furnace building blueprint. Required materials: wood 20, stone 20, iron ore 40. Taking out the drawings, Su Ming started to build directly. After a while, the furnace with a height of half a person was built, and he placed it directly in an empty room. Smelting furnace. Putting in a unit of wood can work for half an hour. After the flint had lit the fire, he put in 2 units of wood. Then, he took 10 units of iron ore and poured them into the smelting furnace one by one. Iron ore is slowly melting. Remove impurities. Half an hour later, the iron juice flowed out, and finally solidified into 2 hard iron pieces. Ding! 10 units of iron ore were successfully smelted. Refined iron plus 2. This efficiency is too slow. It took half an hour to smelt 2 pieces of refined iron. The exquisite light armor needs 10 yuan, that is to say, it takes 2.5 hours to complete. Complaining about it, Su Ming put in another 10 units of iron ore and started smelting. During this period, he took time to trade 5 units of flax on the platform. Now, just wait for the refined iron to be smelted. Time gradually passed. 2 hours later, 10 pieces of refined iron are freshly baked. Su Ming took out the blueprint and started building directly. I saw the drawing turned into thousands of light spots, and finally slowly condensed into an armor-like appearance. You successfully forged the exquisite light armor. After the building was completed, he held the light armor in both hands. The entire armor is dark black, and under the white light, it glows with a faint cold light, giving people a majestic and cold feeling. He put it on directly. The light armor is very close-fitting, perfectly protecting every inch of the upper body. Su Ming twisted his body and found that the light armor was not as heavy as he had imagined. On the contrary, it is very light and comfortable, without a trace of diaphragm, and does not affect daily activities at all. The exquisite light armor was finished, and it was approaching evening. It was getting dark. It's time for the night to shroud again, which means that disaster creatures will strike again. Su Ming habitually walked to the earth wall, lay down on the wicker chair and waited. An hour passed, the darkness completely swallowed the sunlight, and the world fell into endless darkness again. At this moment, everything is empty and silent, and outside the range of the white light of the sentry tower, you can't see your fingers. Su Ming stared into the distance. 5 minutes later, it was business as usual. How come there is no disaster creature attack? Su Ming was suspicious. Usually, when night falls, disaster creatures will appear immediately. Today is a bit unusual. He continued to wait. Time passed, and an hour passed. He found that there was still nothing unusual around, and there were no traces of disaster creatures at all. Su Ming opened the chat channel, ready to see other people's situation. Why is there no disaster creature attack tonight? That's right, my feet are numb, but I didn't wait for the monster to arrive. Actually, the monster is coming, it doesn't matter whether you wait or not, anyway, if the base is broken, you will die. What my brother said seems to make sense. Although it makes sense, I can't sleep until I finish defending the disaster creatures every night. A series of chat messages came into view. Su Ming found that other people were not attacked by the disaster creatures. It seems that everyone's situation is the same. He lay down on the rattan chair for another hour, and the surroundings remained the same before returning to the house. The night was black and quiet. Su Ming opened the chat channel again to prepare to pass the time. No one was attacked tonight, and the discussion in the group was extremely heated. There was no threat of death for the time being, and everyone started bragging. Hey, it was supposed to be a big kill tonight and harvest a wave of items, but the disaster creature didn't come. Who says it's not? After the catastrophe frenzy, the number of my defense towers has doubled, and I will definitely be able to hold the base firmly in the future. Awesome bro, how many defense towers have you built now? Not many, there are only 15 arrow towers and 5 catapult towers. That's not much. I only have 18 arrow towers, and I don't have any catapult towers. I don't have as many as you. A group of brothers, I have 25 defensive towers, including 15 level 1 arrow towers, 5 level 2 arrow towers, and 5 stone throwing towers. Level 2 arrow tower. Awesome, you are the real boss. Hehe, so what if there are too many defensive towers? I only have 8 first level arrow towers and I'm still alive and well. How did your 8 arrow towers survive? Could it be that your excellency is the one in the legend, King of Go Xuancheng? I can't help it, I'm so domineering, those disaster creatures won't come to attack my base. When he was bored, Su Ming thought it would be good to watch the big brother bragging on the channel. At this time, he saw these people began to mention his name. Tell me, how many defense towers does Boss Su Ming have now? As soon as this person asked a question, the message refresh stopped for a few seconds and then became popular again. I think Su Ming's defense towers need to be at least 30. Only 30. I think at least 35. I don't agree, I think Su Ming has at least 40 defensive towers. How could there be 40 seats? Do you think the construction resources are Chinese cabbage? Isn't it easy to build 40? The key depends on the quality of the tower. What are you arguing about? Just look at this and you'll know. Attached picture, first level base upgrade blueprint. Everyone clicked on the attached picture, and when they saw the resources required for the upgrade, they fell silent. First of all, the prerequisite is that the number of defensive towers needs to be 40, and the construction of the cheapest arrow tower also requires 200 units of wood and stone. This prerequisite makes it impossible for a small number of people to achieve it. Not to mention the construction resources needed later, wood, stone, and iron, each need 500 units. The combination of the two requires at least 700 units of each resource. At this stage, except for Su Ming, almost no one can obtain so many resources. At this time, the man who was jokingly called the real boss spoke. Is this the great god Su Ming? My 25 defensive towers are only 380 units when converted into construction resources, which is far from enough to upgrade the base. As soon as these words came out and the two were compared, the gap between Su Ming and them instantly became intuitive. Boss Su Ming, awesome. Is Su Ming cheating? How did he get so many resources? Now I finally know the true strength of Boss Su Ming. I'm crying, is the gap between me and the boss so big? Bro, do you sell base upgrade blueprints? What the hell, you won't be able to upgrade even if I give you the blueprint. This is too much, The chat channel is discussing enthusiastically, and Su Ming also basically understands the development of other people. The sum of his gains in the past few days has already surpassed everyone by a large margin. In terms of resources obtained, he was at least a month ahead of everyone else. It was late at night. Su Ming turned off the chat channel, lay on the bed, and gradually fell asleep. The next day, the white light gradually disperses the night, and the world wakes up from the darkness. There were no disaster creatures attacking last night, and everyone slept soundly. Su Ming got up early in the morning. Habitually walk out of the house with a container filled with water. Outside the house, the spiritual fruit trees and various vegetables and herbs are growing very well, and they change drastically every day. Today, the spirit fruit tree is a head taller than Su Ming. The brown trunk is straight and straight, as thick as the mouth of a bull, and the trees are full of lush green leaves. On the crisp and tender branches, green fruits the size of thumbs began to hang. Obviously, the spirit fruit tree has begun to bear fruit and is about to mature. He slowly poured water on the roots of the spirit fruit tree. Then go to the side of the planting area. Weeding here, loosening the soil there. In the morning, he kept the planting area in good order. The sun came out rarely today, and the sun broke through the thick dark clouds and sprinkled warmth on the earth. The warm sun shines on the body, making it warm and comfortable. Su Ming lay on the wicker chair in the afternoon, enjoying the sunshine comfortably. The calamity world is very boring, there are no other means of entertainment, and everyone has no other way of entertainment except to resolve loneliness through chat channels. He squinted his eyes, watching the news that the chat channel was refreshed rapidly. Go to the trading platform from time to time to see if there are any items worth trading. Most of the dense transaction information on the trading platform is for food and construction resources. Su Ming flipped through the transaction information, and suddenly he saw an item. Tea. Specification. 50 grams. Requirement. 500 milliliters drinking water. His eyes lit up. This sunny afternoon, it was time to drink tea. This information was released yesterday, but it has not been traded. At this stage, almost no one exchanged such useless items for survival. Of course, except for Su Ming. He spent 500 milliliters of drinking water and got 50 grams of tea in exchange. All that is missing now is the utensils for making tea. He directly spent 50 points and exchanged them for a stove and a tea set in the mall. Then, the stove is placed outside the house, and after the fire is lit, a teapot filled with water is placed. After a while, steaming steam came out of the water in the teapot. At this time, Su Ming lifted the lid of the pot, and the heated water bubbled up with fish-eye-sized bubbles. It's time to add tea. He picked up a pinch of tea with his fingers and put it into the kettle. Immediately, a bud and a leaf slowly unfolded in the boiling water, like an orchid, and like a beautiful woman stretching, extremely beautiful. At the same time, a refreshing fragrance came. After heating for a minute, the heat is enough, and the stove is turned off. After Su Ming waited quietly for another 2 minutes, he picked up the teapot and slowly poured the tea into the cup. Immediately, a fragrance came to the nostrils, and the soup was green and bright, which looked very attractive. Call. Su Ming blew on the cooling air, took a sip lightly, and immediately the inner aroma rushed, the taste was mellow and sweet, and the throat was smooth. Throughout the afternoon, Su Ming lay on the wicker chair, enjoying the sunshine. Take a sip of tea from time to time, the mouthful is full of fragrance. It was evening in a flash, and the sun hid in the clouds. It was getting dark. Night falls. Will there be disaster creatures coming tonight? Su Ming guessed inwardly. At this time, the night completely enveloped the world. After waiting for a while, he found that the surroundings were still peaceful, and there were no signs of disaster creatures coming. Just when he was about to open the chat channel to see what other people were doing, he suddenly discovered that in the distant sky, groups of black shadows flew towards his base. He suddenly discovered that in the distant sky, groups of black shadows flew towards his base. Groups of black shadows gathered together. Looking from a distance, they looked like huge black clouds. It's just that in this black cloud, there are dense red light spots shining, which looks very strange and terrifying. Yeah, the shrill and old cry resounded through the sky, making people feel very uncomfortable and irritated. A flying calamity creature. Su Ming looked up and watched the black cloud approaching quickly. Their flying speed was very fast, and they were illuminated by the white light of the sentry tower in a short time. Only then did Su Ming see the appearance of these monsters clearly. This is a group of palm-sized bird creatures, with a pair of bird eyes exuding scarlet light, and its feathers are all black, which can perfectly hide in the darkness. Tier 2 Night Crow. Health. 400. Action speed. 30 meters per second. When Su Ming saw the attribute panel of these night crows, the arrow tower began to attack. Whoosh. On the earth wall, all the arrow towers fired extremely sharp arrows at this moment. Shoot 10 arrows in 1 second. Coupled with the triple range, the attack range of these arrow towers has become extremely far. I saw countless arrows shooting towards the black cloud, overwhelmingly. The speed is 3 points faster than the flying speed of the night crow. In an instant, hundreds of arrows hit the attacking night crows. Puff puff. -159. -162. -148. Pieces of blood red damage value floated up. With the addition of the splash module and the power of the pioneer, 2 or 3 arrows can usually solve a night crow. Yeah, the night crows screamed mournfully, and countless black feathers fluttered down from the air. The night crows were harvested one by one, and fell from the sky like rain. Your arrow tower kills the second level night crow, points +5. Your arrow tower kills the second level night crow, points +5. As more and more night crows were killed, a rotten stench mixed with blood came from afar, making Su Ming feel unwell. He hurried down the wall and returned to the house. Anyway, the night crows couldn't break through his defense at all, so he didn't need to worry. After returning to the house, he opened the chat channel to see how other people were doing. Why are flying disaster creatures here today? Yeah, I can't hit any of the catapults, I'm so mad. Help, my defense tower will be destroyed by a group of first-order bats. It's over, my wooden house is about to be demolished. This flying monster is too scary, I can't stand it anymore. In the chat channel, there was a lot of wailing and crying. It seems that the difficulty of survival is getting higher and higher. Su Ming looked at the speeches of the crowd with pensive eyes. Before the catastrophe frenzy, all the disaster creatures appeared on the ground. Suddenly, flying monsters came. Many people were not prepared, and the base was severely damaged. Moreover, the flying monsters are fast and flexible, and the sling towers simply cannot hit them. And the attack range of the arrow tower is not far away, and often when the arrow tower starts to attack, the flying calamity creatures will burst into their faces. Su Ming also noticed a very important piece of information: these people were all attacked by first-order disaster creatures. Only he was attacked by a second-order calamity creature. Is this the hidden danger brought by the pioneers? Or those who were attacked by the second-order disaster were all dead and had no chance to speak in the channel? Su Ming didn't know about all this, but he wasn't worried at all. Half an hour later, he picked up all the dropped items. Wood gets 504, stone gets 562, iron ore gets 498. In terms of points, 1040 points were also harvested. Although there is not as much harvest as during the disaster frenzy, it is not bad. The monsters attacking his base are obviously more and stronger than others, but because of this, he can get more items. The total number of resources has always been far ahead. After picking up the items, Su Ming was also hungry. Eating hot pot in the past 2 days has also been a bit boring, so he started searching on the trading platform. After a few minutes, his eyes lit up. A bag of marinade. Requirement: 1 kilogram meat. I will eat stewed vegetables tonight. After exchanging it with 1 kilogram of meat, a bag of marinade appeared in his hand. When opened, it contained various materials: bay leaves, star anise, cinnamon. A strong fragrance hits the face. Immediately, pour them all into a pot filled with water, and then pour in soy sauce. Light the fire and bring to a boil. While waiting for the water to boil, he cut the meat into slices, and cleaned out the vegetables that he hadn't eaten before. 20 minutes later, the water finally boiled, and the fragrance of the spices dissolved in the water, and almost all the fragrance came out. It's so fragrant. Su Ming took a deep breath and praised. After finally waiting for the stewed soup to cool completely, he put the prepared ingredients into the pot, covered the pot, and cooked it slowly over medium-low heat. About half an hour passed, and Su Ming couldn't wait any longer. Turn off the flame. Remove the lid. Immediately, a strong and extremely strong stewed fragrance rushed towards him. It's also delicious. Who can stand it? Just the smell is very attractive. Su Ming's mouth began to secrete saliva rapidly. He quickly picked up a piece of moderately thick pork belly and swallowed it into his mouth. Suddenly, the fragrance overflowed. The fat meat melts in the mouth, and the lean meat has a bit of chewiness. While retaining the aroma of the meat, it is full of marinated fragrance. Awesome! The stewed pork is so delicious, you can't stop eating it, slice after slice. Not only the stewed meat is delicious, but the vegetables are also quite tasty. The potatoes are soft and glutinous, and they melt with a sip. The lotus root slices are crisp and delicious, and the bite is delicious. Less than half an hour. Su Ming emptied most of the pot of stewed vegetables, sat on the chair and burped comfortably. After resting for a while, feeling that his stomach was not so full, he went to bed and was ready to fall asleep. After resting for a while, feeling that his stomach was not so full, he went to bed and was ready to fall asleep. In the bedroom, Su Ming was lying on a narrow wooden bed. The plank bed was a bit cold and hard, and the straw underneath was tingling. He tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep. Su Ming thinks it's time to improve sleep conditions. He directly opened the trading platform, entered the keyword bed, and clicked search. Immediately, rows of related item information were searched out. He browsed quickly, blocking most of the useless information. After a few minutes, he locked on a drawing. Luxury rosewood bed, create blueprint. Introduction. This is an incomparably luxurious and perfect rosewood bed, which can greatly improve your sleep quality, and you don't have to worry about insomnia anymore in lonely nights. Construction materials. Rosewood, 10, refined iron, 5, soft feather, 50, cotton, 50. He can smelt refined iron, but not other materials. Su Ming tried to search for rosewood on the trading platform. A guy just showed up selling it. Rosewood. Quantity. 1 root. Requirement. 200 milliliters water. Stock. 20 pieces. He directly exchanged 2 liters of water for 10 rosewood. Immediately afterwards, he exchanged 500 grams of meat for cotton wool. Now it is only a soft feather, but it is not found on the platform. After thinking about it, he sent a message asking for a purchase in the chat channel. Buy 50 units of soft feathers, can they be exchanged for meat or water? After receiving the honor of the pioneer, he can choose to put his chat on top, which will not be refreshed by other people's information. After posting, he directly put it on the top of the chat channel, and was immediately seen by countless people. Wow, the boss is haunted, and the front row is watching. Boss Su Ming, please hug your thigh. Hey, I don't have any feathers, can I exchange them for other things? Why is the boss buying feathers? Can feathers build special buildings? Yes, Mr. Su Ming, please tell us. In an instant, his speech attracted the attention of many people, and many people asked about the use of feathers. Seeing this, Su Ming sent out the drawing directly. Su Ming. Drawing picture, click to view. What is this? Everyone saw the picture, opened it curiously, and then saw a blueprint for construction. Luxurious rosewood bed. Requirements for crafting. Soft feather 50. Quote. In an instant, everyone was blindfolded. Create blueprints. Luxurious rosewood bed. What the hell? A few seconds later, everyone exploded. Blueprints for making a luxurious bed. Is this the strength of Mr. Su Ming? I don't know the other materials, but the 10 refined iron needs 100 iron ore to be smelted to make a luxurious big bed. Hiss, I take a deep breath, Mr. Su Ming, it's so scary. I also want to sleep in a big bed, it's so sore. Welcome to the Big Pretend Show, the luxurious life of Mr. Su Ming. Su Big Brother, I can warm your bed. Everyone couldn't believe it. Su Ming's resources are so abundant that there is no place to use them. We don't even have the resources to build defense towers. You start to enjoy it. Why is there such a big gap between people? In the entire chat channel, everyone was discussing in full swing, and messages were bombarded one after another. After Su Ming waited for half an hour, he finally got the information about someone trading feathers. After spending 1 liter of water, he successfully exchanged for soft feathers. After the exchange, the only thing left now is refined iron. He went to the smelting furnace for more than an hour and smelted 5 pieces of refined iron. At this point, the materials for the big bed are assembled. He carried out the original wooden bed again, and the bedroom was empty and spacious. Build. I saw the drawing surfaced into thousands of light spots, which gradually solidified into the appearance of a big bed. Ding! The luxurious rosewood bed is finished. In the bedroom, there was a spacious and exquisite big bed. The whole body was dark purple, and there were exquisite patterns carved on the head of the bed. Looking closer, it also exudes a faint fragrance, which makes people very comfortable. In the middle of the bed was a thick snow-white mattress. Cool, such a spacious bed, you can roll the sheets casually. Su Ming jumped directly on the bed. So elastic, so soft. His whole body sank into the soft down feathers, as if wrapped in clouds. Let his whole body and mind get an incomparable sense of comfort. Correct, such a luxurious and soft big bed, how can it be done without a quilt? He began to search for the keyword quilt on the platform again. The next moment, densely packed information popped up. After searching for a while, he finally found what he was satisfied with. Golden Fleece Quilt Production Drawing. Crafting Requirements. Gold fleece, 50, cotton, 10. Requirement, 20 units each of wood, stone, iron ore. Exchange. After spending 20 units of each construction resource, I immediately got the blueprint for making the quilt. Later, after purchasing the corresponding materials on the platform, a soft and silky gold plush quilt is produced, lying on a luxurious rosewood bed, covered with a golden velvet quilt. It is simply an incomparable luxury enjoyment. In less than a minute, he was comfortably asleep. Next morning, it's daybreak. The sun shines on the earth, awakening all sleeping things. Su Ming slept until dawn. Opening his eyes, he felt extremely energetic and full of strength. Sleeping on the luxurious and soft big bed, the whole person feels extremely happy. That night, he slept very sweetly. After lying down for a while, he stretched comfortably and got up. On a new day, it is time to irrigate and take care of the spiritual fruit trees and crops outside the house. Stepping out of the house is surrounded by lush crops. In particular, the spirit fruit tree is very conspicuous. It has grown to the height of the house, and there are many fist-sized fruits hanging on it. It's just that these fruits are still very green and not yet ripe, so they cannot be eaten. After watering the spirit fruit tree, he walked to the planting area. After several days of careful cultivation, these vegetables have begun to mature and are about to reach the moment of harvest. After taking care of it carefully, he also started to prepare his own breakfast. As soon as he walked into the kitchen, a strong aroma of lo mein came to his nostrils, which made Su Ming's index finger twitch. Now that there is marinade, it's good to have stewed pork noodles in the morning. He opened the trading platform and exchanged for a caddy of flour. Pour the flour into a large bowl, and pour in an appropriate amount of water. After stirring, start kneading the dough. After 10 minutes, a smooth and moderately firm dough appeared. Then, he took out the rolling pin and flattened the dough evenly. Cut into noodles of even width with a sharp knife. From right to left, pick up the first layer and beat it lightly to make the noodles unfold. At this time, the water in the pot also boiled. The noodles are finally in the pot. After a few minutes, the noodles come out of the pan. Put it into the marinade that has been prepared, and a bowl of steaming, fragrant braised pork noodles is complete. The noodle soup is brown, with a shiny finish, and the noodles are white and tender, slender and smooth, which will increase your appetite at first sight. Su Ming couldn't wait to pick up the chopsticks and started to eat. The noodles are firm and fully melted into the aroma of the marinade. Immediately, he swallowed the noodles in big mouthfuls, unable to stop at all. In a few minutes, he finished a bowl of noodles. Picking up the bowl and, gurgling, to finish the soup, Su Ming felt extremely satisfied when the noodle soup bottomed out. After breakfast, Su Ming lay down on the wicker chair. After thinking about it, the resources harvested yesterday have not been utilized yet. He opened the construction panel and selected the arrow tower column. Spend 100 wood and stone to build 20 level 1 arrow towers. Then, he upgraded all these arrow towers to level 2. After a bang, 20 tall and majestic level 2 arrow towers stood on the earthen wall. So far, the number of his arrow towers has reached exactly 100. On the earth wall, tall arrow towers were spread out one after another, densely packed, without a single gap, like chilling soldiers one by one, guarding the city wall. Time flies. It was almost evening and the sun was setting. Su Ming stood on the city wall, waiting for the night to fall, defending against disaster creatures. He looked into the distance and saw only the horizon, a round of sunset, flushed red, slowly falling to the west. The afterglow of the setting sun reflects the whole world. In the base, on the plain, they are all covered by the bright red glow, and the area is as red as fire. This sunset is even more beautiful than the stars on the earth, it's so beautiful. Su Ming admired, and sent a sentence in the chat channel. In the chat channel, everyone was chatting, and suddenly they were interrupted by Su Ming's words, and they were suddenly envious. I'm crying, I'm still strengthening the defense of the base, but Mr. Su Ming is still thinking about watching the sunset. Looking good is good looking, but the night is coming, and disaster creatures are coming. I hope there will be no more flying monsters, I really can't stand it. I really envy Su Ming, who is carefree every day, and doesn't worry about monsters attacking at all. What's the use of being envious? You have to rely on your own resource development base. While everyone was chatting, time gradually passed, and the sunset slowly ended. The sky gradually darkened, and as time passed, the darkness completely swallowed up the last sliver of white light. Night has fallen. The white light of the sentry tower is a conspicuous lighting tower in the dark. All the time, it attracts the surrounding disaster creatures to approach the base. After the night fell, the temperature dropped sharply, and the breeze blew by, making it feel a bit chilly. Su Ming stared into the distance. Suddenly, faint sounds came from all around. It seemed that the distance was too far, and he didn't hear clearly. As time went by, the voice gradually became clearer. One after another of chaotic voices came, very strange, it seemed to be shrill screams, and it was like a woman's shrill cry. It sounds very eerie and weird, and it makes the scalp tingle. Su Ming stared into the distance with some doubts in his heart. Apart from the ghost-like sound, there seemed to be nothing unusual tonight. Even now, he has not heard the footsteps of disaster creatures coming. This situation is very different from usual. Seems a little weird tonight. As the eerie calls got closer, they were finally exposed to the detection of the sentry tower. There are not many of them, there are only about 20 of them on each side of the base. Compared with the densely packed disaster creatures in the night, the number is very small, which is not a cause for concern at all. At this time, their attributes were also seen by Su Ming. Tier 2 Shadow Banshee. HP, 500. Action speed, 5 per second. I saw these shadow banshees, shaped like women, with a curvaceous figure and a head of blue hair fluttering in the wind. Their bodies are looming, looking like a phantom, hazy and illusory. Moreover, what made Su Ming different was that they were actually floating in the air, and they were slowly drifting towards his base at this time. No wonder he didn't hear footsteps just now. Whoosh! At this time, bursts of piercing sounds sounded. Countless arrows roared towards these banshees like raindrops. After installing the triple range module, when the calamity creature stepped into the white light, it had already stepped into the attack range of the arrow tower. The densely packed arrows in the sky shot at the shadow banshees at high speed. That's all it takes, it's not enough to fit between the teeth. Su Ming complained that the number of these banshees is too small to provide many points at all. In less than a second, these arrows hit the banshee. -1, -1, -1, comma. A piece of blood-red damage floated by. What? Su Ming was stunned. I saw countless arrows shot at the banshee's body, and even passed directly through their bodies. Moreover, the damage was only 1 point, and many attacks were even avoided without causing any damage. In this round of volley, each banshee only received less than 20 points of damage. If this continues, when these banshees approach his base, his arrow tower will not be able to kill a few banshees. Su Ming is not calm anymore. You know, his arrow towers are equipped with 4 modules, and the damage is directly full. But now when dealing with these banshees, they can't deal any damage. What is going on? Su Ming narrowed his eyes slightly, staring at the front of those bases. The overwhelming arrows hit the banshee's body, but their bodies fluctuated, and the arrows passed directly through their bodies as if they were shooting into the air. Arrow towers are useless to them. Su Ming also found out at this moment. But he began to control the flame tower. In the next second, he stared at the banshee with the most dense numbers, and directly used the flame storm. Boom! A flame storm erupted and completely engulfed the group of banshees. The dazzling flames made this area red, like daytime, and a wave of scorching air came head-on. Immediately, the mournful and strange voices of these banshees stopped abruptly. -2011. -2121. -1989. Comma. More than 2000 damage per second, the damage is completely overflowing. Kill in seconds. Engulfed by the flames, the banshee's body was melted directly, turning into puffs of white gas and evaporating directly, leaving no corpse behind. Get rid of the banshee on one side, and the banshee on 3 sides needs to be dealt with. Crisis does not fully engage. But after the flame tower is released, it takes 25 seconds for the minimum charge. This time is long enough to get close to his base. Therefore, it cannot rely entirely on the output of the flame tower. Although the arrow tower was only scraping against the banshee, it couldn't hold back his arrow tower and shot fast. 10 shots per second. A salvo of 100 arrow towers in 1 second can kill 2 banshees. Immediately, he divided the arrow tower into 2 teams, and one team shot a banshee in volley. Whoosh! Countless arrows whizzed out and shot straight at the 2 banshees. In an instant, the 2 banshees were shot by densely packed arrows. -1, -1, ... A large number of damage values floated up at the same time. Your level 2 arrow tower kills a level 2 shadow banshee, your points +10. The 2 banshees were dealt with, and he continued to control the arrow tower and began to shoot volleys. 10 seconds later, the Banshee had already cleared one side. The remaining two faced Banshees are less than 50 meters away from the base. With their moving speed, they can get close to the base in 10 seconds, and this time is only enough to deal with the Banshee on one side. There's also a side of Banshee that can't be resolved. It seems that he can only hold on and wait for the flame tower to be charged. Whoosh! The dense arrows are still pouring down. 10 seconds passed in a flash. At this time, there was only one side of the Banshee left, and they were already close to the base. But now the flame tower is still 5 seconds away from the minimum charge. After approaching the base, the Banshee's screams became even more sinister, and it seemed to form layers of sound waves, attacking in all directions. Rumble. Under the attack of this sound wave, the earth wall on that side began to tremble slightly. Su Ming's eyelids twitched when he saw it, for fear that they would bring down the earthen wall. His eyes were fixed on the charging value of the flame tower. 92, 96, 100. Finally, the charge is enough. Flamestorm. The next moment, a soaring red light suddenly lit up outside the base, completely devouring the Banshee. -201, -231, -198. ... The damage value keeps rising. Although the damage of the low-end version of Flamestorm is more than one level lower, these Banshees can't handle it at all. In 3 seconds, all the Banshees were burned out, and the shrill cry disappeared. After a few seconds, the flames dissipated. On the scorched black ground, more than a dozen dropped items appeared. Seeing this, Su Ming walked over and started to pick it up. Ding, you picked up the blueprint for the construction of the ice tower. Blueprint of the ice tower. Su Ming is overjoyed. This is a new defense tower blueprint. He looked over excitedly. Ice tower construction drawings. A special defense tower that can gather mysterious and powerful ice elements. The released ice power can freeze the enemy and greatly slow down the enemy's movement speed. Construction resources. Wood, 500, stone, 500, iron ore, 500, ice gem 1, ice rune 1. This is a special defense tower. Su Ming was overjoyed. He had built the same type of flame tower before. In many battles, he has seen the powerful power of the flame tower every second. Looking at the introduction, Su Ming guessed that this ice tower should be a defensive tower that tends to support the role. However, he is still short of ice gems and runes, so he cannot build them for the time being. He was not in a hurry, so he went to pick up the items that fell tonight first. 10 minutes later, he finished picking it up and returned to the base. Then, he opened the trading platform and began to write transaction information. Su Ming. Requirements. Ice gem 1, ice rune 1. Remarks. Wood, stone, iron ore, drinking water or meat can be traded, some private messages. After editing, Su Ming sent it directly. After thinking about it, he sent the same acquisition message in the chat channel and pinned it to the top. At night, many people have finished defending tonight's disaster creatures, and most of them are spending time in the chat channel. As soon as Su Ming's pinned message was posted, most people saw it and spoke up one after another. I can't understand the items bought by Mr. Su Ming. Who can tell me what ice gems and ice runes are? I've never heard of them. I'm crying. I feel like the boss and I are living in two worlds. Ha ha ha, I happen to have an ice rune, so I'll go. Envious, comma. A piece of information was swiped. Su Ming waited for a few minutes, and saw his private message box keep beating. When he opened it, it was a private message from a person named Zhang Liang. Zhang Liang. Boss Su Ming, I have the ice rune attached here. Su Ming was overjoyed, and immediately asked, how do you want to exchange? Zhang Liang. 50 units each of wood and stone, and 1 liter of water, is that okay? Su Ming. Wood and stone are fine, but up to 500 milliliters of drinking water. After sending, the other party was silent for a minute, and finally replied the message. Zhang Liang. Deal. Seeing this, Su Ming listed the resources he needed on the trading platform. A few seconds later, the transaction was completed, and a blue rune appeared in his hand. Holding the hand, a cold touch came. Ice rune in hand. Now only the frost gem is needed to build the frost tower. However, He waited for half an hour, but no one sent him a private message. He knew it was useless to worry. Go to the bedroom. There is a faint fragrance, which is the fragrance of rosewood, which can effectively help sleep. Su Ming jumped onto the big bed. The whole body spread out, forming a big character on the bed. Lying on the luxurious rosewood bed, soft and comfortable, he soon fell asleep. The night passed by leisurely. On the second day, it was just dawn. Su Ming slept until he woke up naturally. A good night's sleep made him feel full of strength. Get up. He habitually holds water, ready to water it. When he opened the door, he was startled, and then a look of joy appeared on his face. The crops are ripe. The first thing that catches the eye is the tomatoes that are full of fruits. These tomatoes are very big, the size of a fist, and they are all ruddy and bright, looking very attractive. Then, there are the corn stalks that are as tall as a person. There are 5 or 6 huge corn cobs growing on it, opening a few gaps in the tightly wrapped leaves, revealing golden yellow and plump corn kernels. Su Ming walked forward happily, and looked at the potatoes planted again. The potato was rooted in the soil, and he grabbed its stem along the vine and lifted it up hard. Suddenly, the whole potato plant was uprooted. Su Ming felt that his hand was heavy, and he could see at a glance that there were more than 10 huge potatoes attached to it. After weighing it, he felt that this plant alone probably weighed 20 catties. Then he looked at the other crops. Wheat, broccoli. Every crop is growing very well, it is a bumper harvest. Hastily settle breakfast. Su Ming walked to the planting area vigorously and started working. He spent 10 points in exchange for a backpack. Immediately, start with the tomatoes first. Huge tomatoes were carefully put into the basket by him. In just over 10 minutes, he picked more than half of the tomatoes, and he was going to leave the rest on the vines for a longer period of time. At this point, the backpack was almost full. After he was transported to the empty house, he started picking corn again. Corn is as easy to pick as tomatoes. At the same time, corn is not easy to rot and damage. He will collect it in a short time. Then came the broccoli. Potato. The only trouble is the wheat. After harvesting, it is necessary to smooth out the ears of wheat, break down the grains of wheat, and then dry them in the sun. But despite the trouble, Su Ming is full of energy. In one morning, the planted crops were finally picked and arranged. At this time, the vacant house was filled with all kinds of vegetables. Chapter 31. The yield of these crops is much higher than that of Earth Star. He tossed around and roughly confirmed their number. Tomatoes 50, corn 30, cabbage 30, broccoli 25. With such a large quantity, he couldn't eat it all by himself, and the remaining vegetables might rot. Moreover, after harvesting, he can replant the open space with vegetables. A few days later, there was another bumper harvest. Su Ming decided to sell most of the vegetables and keep some for himself. Immediately, he opened the trading platform and began to write information. Seller. Su Ming. Sell. 1 piece of corn. Requirement. Stone 5. Stock. 20, Seller. Su Ming. Sell. 1 piece of tomato. Requirement. Stone 5. Stock. 40, Sale. 1 broccoli. Sell. 1 piece of potato. Call. After writing all the information, Su Ming let out a long breath. At present, he lacks a lot of stone materials to upgrade the city walls, so all his needs are filled with stone materials. After several messages were uploaded, they were immediately put on the top. Many people who were browsing the trading platform were blinded in an instant. The next second, when they noticed that all these were sold were food, they started to snap up them. Just kidding, at this stage, food is still a scarce resource. In less than a minute, Su Ming found that all the food hung up by him had been emptied. And he also got 675 stone. Su Ming was stunned by the astonishing buying speed. At the same time, in the chat channel, everyone was already frying. Is Mr. Su Ming so lucky? He exploded so much food. Hey, Su Ming is so lucky, it seems that the difference between me and the boss is luck. My hands are slow, I didn't grab one of them. What are you talking about? I just bought a potato, and it's still covered with dirt. It's obviously just pulled out of the ground. What? So, those vegetables are grown by Mr. Su Ming himself. It must be so. Worry, Su Ming has started planting crops, and I'm still looking forward to killing monsters and exploding food. Don't talk about it, whoever has the seed, I will buy it at a high price. Hehe, are you going to buy it and grow it yourself? I have tried it a long time ago. You have to water every day to grow those vegetables. Can you afford it? I'm trash, I can't even support myself. Waste +1. The discussion was endless. Someone threatened to grow vegetables by himself, but after being told that he needed to irrigate with extremely precious water resources, he was soaked in a basin of cold water on the spot, which made him feel cold from head to toe. But there is no doubt that Su Ming has completely confirmed the title of Big Boss in the hearts of everyone. If you meet this boss in the future, just call 666 and you're done. At this time, Su Ming was taking stock of his own resources. After killing the Banshee yesterday, his construction resources increased again. Wood 1230, stone 2100, iron ore 1340. There are a lot of various resources, but there is still a big gap between upgrading the city wall. Su Ming thought about it for a while, and decided to exchange wood and iron ore for some stone. The three construction resources of wood, stone and iron ore are exchanged at the same value on the trading platform. He posted another transaction information directly on the trading platform. Seller, Su Ming. Exchange, timber iron ore 10. Requirement, stone 10. Stock, 150. After posting, his message was immediately on the top. It's so convenient. Looking at the top transaction information, Su Ming was amazed. After setting it to the top, as long as others open the trading platform, they can see his information at the first time. Can save a lot of time. Otherwise, after the transaction information is sent out, it will be submerged in the dense information and disappear into the sea. It is not easy to be found by others. In 10 minutes, most of the transactions were completed. At the same time, the people in the chat channel were shocked by Su Ming's generosity before they recovered. Boss Su Ming, I kneel down to you. Not only is there no shortage of food, but there are so many resources. Who says it's not? Judging from the transaction information, Mr. Su Ming's timber and iron ore add up to 1,500. 1,500 stone. I cracked it. Why does he have so many resources? Awesome. I spend 20 lumber carefully, and others have thousands of resources. Has no one noticed that Mr. Su Ming is also buying stones when he sells vegetables? I was just about to ask this question. With such a large demand for stone materials, is he going to build something amazing? The same question, Mr. Su Ming, please open your eyes. Su Ming, who was following the chat channel, silently posted a picture. Stone wall construction drawings. Construction required. 30 stone per meter. When everyone opened the picture, they were so shocked that they couldn't speak. After a while, news from the chat channel poured out like a flood. Boss 666, I kneel down for you. Stone wall construction. 1 meter needs 30 stone materials, which means that it needs 2,400 stone materials to build it. My goal is to collect 500 stones to upgrade the base. My goal has not been achieved yet, but this boss has already completed several goals. Grow vegetables first, and then build stone walls. I have been bombarded by Mr. Su Ming to the point of doubting my life. Everyone was so shocked that they bombarded the chat channel. At this time, Su Ming had already completed the transaction. The transaction is completed. You get stone *1500. Exchange wood 700 and iron ore 800 to stone 1500. He finally raised all 3,600 stones. Now he can finally build a stronger stone wall. Su Ming was overjoyed. He took out the blueprint for building the stone wall, and started building directly after consuming 3,600 stone materials. In the next second, the drawing disappeared and turned into thousands of points of light, flying towards the earth wall. Rumble. At this time, the base began to rumble around, and the ground was trembling slightly. Su Ming saw that the earth wall was completely covered by white light. The vibration lasted for a full minute before it stopped. I saw that piece of white light has dissipated. In Su Ming's expectant eyes, the walls around the base are quite different now. The original yellowish earth wall has been completely replaced by a strong and square solid stone wall. Su Ming quickly stepped onto the stone wall. Now the height of the city wall has doubled, about 6 meters high. Standing on it and overlooking it in the distance, there is already a slight feeling of being high above. Moreover, the width of the stone wall has also been widened a lot, about 3 meters, and it is very spacious when walking on it, without feeling cramped at all. Su Ming felt that with this width, a row of defensive towers could be built behind the arrow tower. Very nice. Su Ming praised with a smile, feeling very satisfied. It is worthwhile for him to spend so much stone to build it. Now this majestic stone wall has given people the impression that it is impenetrable and indestructible. Wandering around the stone wall, he walked slowly down the steps. He has more important things to do. That's Chaffin. With so many vegetables harvested today, it's time to satisfy his appetite. After thinking about it, he spent 20 points in exchange for a stone mill, which was used to shell wheat. After pouring all the wheat onto the stone platform, he grabbed the wooden handle above and started to spin it. After about half an hour, the husking of the wheat was finally completed. I saw grains of wheat with plump grains and bright colors appearing. Su Ming carefully collected the husked wheat and packed them together. After filling a bowl of rice grains and washing them slowly, put them in a steamer. Bring to a boil and bring to a boil. Then, he went to the empty house and took a piece of potato, a small cabbage and 2 corns to the kitchen. Mold the potatoes and cut them into shreds. Bok choy removes roots and washes. Husk the corn. Take another piece of meat and cut it into shreds. At this point, all the ingredients have been prepared. Throw the corn and cabbage into a pot of water and cook. Afterwards, he began to concentrate on making shredded potatoes and fried pork. After a few minutes, the shredded potato fried meat is finished. After waiting for another 10 minutes, the rice was cooked, and the corn and cabbage were also out of the pan. At this moment, there are already various aromas in the kitchen. After finishing the meal, Su Ming was already hungry when it was brought to the table. I saw a plate of shredded potato fried meat, a bowl of cabbage soup, and 2 corns on the table. He also held a bowl of fragrant white rice in his hand. The white rice is in the hand, and the rice grains in the bowl are full and distinct. The color is bright and attractive, and the rice fragrance is tangy, very attractive. Su Ming couldn't bear it anymore, and put a big lump of potato shreds and meat strips into his mouth. All of a sudden, various scents hit his taste buds. The shredded potatoes are properly cooked, crispy and delicious, mixed with bursts of meaty aroma, which makes people feel like they are on the clouds. Immediately afterwards, he took a big mouthful of rice, chewed it more than 10 times, and then swallowed it in one gulp. This feeling, tasty, happiness. Then he picked up a stalk of corn and took a few big bites. The fragrance of corn bursts in the mouth, and the fresh and tender juice of the corn fills the mouth while chewing constantly. This feeling is so refreshing. Afterwards, he scooped up another spoonful of cabbage soup and gulped it down. The soup was boiling hot and flowed into the stomach along the esophagus, feeling warm all over the body, very comfortable and comfortable. Sure enough, it's the most comfortable to eat with rice. Su Ming praised it while eating, feeling that it was so delicious. A strong sense of happiness rose spontaneously. In more than 10 minutes, he swept away the food on the table like a glutton, without any waste. For this meal, he drank 3 big bowls of white rice, and finally drank all the cabbage soup. Belch. Su Ming burped and leaned back on the chair, feeling that his stomach was so full that he could hardly walk. It's so cool, so comfortable. This meal was the most comfortable meal he had ever eaten in this world. The hot pot is much more comfortable than any barbecue I ate before. After resting for a while, Su Ming felt that he had digested a lot. He moved the wicker chair to the stone wall to bask in the sun. At this time, at noon, the sun was shining brightly. The warm sunlight shone on his body, making him feel warm and comfortable. Gudong. Beside him, the water in the teapot was already boiling, steaming hot. He poured the tea into the cup and placed it beside him. A fresh scent of tea drifted by. Lying on the rattan chair, sipping tea from time to time, enjoying the sunshine. After satisfying the appetite, drink the afternoon tea leisurely, and fly comfortably. The afterglow of the setting sun sprinkled the earth. On a tall stone wall, Su Ming squinted and watched the chat channel. It's going to be night again, and the monsters are coming again. It always feels like the daytime is so short. It's about to start another day of tough defense. The night was approaching, and everyone was voicing bitterness in the chat channel, very worried. Every evening, it is the most uncomfortable for them. Because they don't know what disaster creatures will attack after night falls, and whether they can withstand the attack of disaster creatures. The unknown is always scary, especially when it is a matter of life and death. No one can calm down. However, Su Ming didn't worry about everyone's worries at all. Compared with the number of disaster frenzy, the monsters that attack every day are not worth mentioning at all. They are all here to deliver food. As time passed, in less than half an hour, the sky was completely shrouded in darkness. When night comes, everything is silent. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, there were violent sounds from all directions around the base, and the ground was shaking violently. Coming, Su Ming stared. Compared with the silent movement when the disaster struck last night, the movement tonight is as if the sky is collapsing. Buzz. As the vibration became louder, it was accompanied by the heavy and long roar of the unknown monster. Finally, the first wave of disaster creatures was exposed to the light of the sentry tower. Seeing their appearance, Su Ming frowned slightly. It was a huge strange beast, with thick and hard scales all over its body, and a thick, long, pointed horn growing upwards on its nose, just like a rhinoceros. And, on their backs, there are skeleton-like creatures riding one after another. They hold bows and arrows in their hands, and quiver bags full of arrows pinned to their waists. Tier 2 Raging Iron Rhino. HP, 1000. Action speed, 20 meters per second. Tier 2 Skeleton Shooter. HP, 500. Action speed, 8 meters per second. Iron Rhinoceros, Archer. The combination of the two made Su Ming think of cavalry archers. The Iron Rhinoceros is a mount, and the Archer is a mounted archer. And their attributes all confirmed his conjecture. The fast blood of the violent Iron Rhino is still thick, obviously, it is the mount of the skeleton shooter. Call out. On the tall and towering stone wall, the 100-arrow towers began to launch a fierce attack. 10 arrows per second. The overwhelming sharp arrows shot towards them like raindrops. Moo! I saw the violent Iron Rhino with its head down, and its thick limbs kept kicking forward vigorously, completely ignoring the flying arrows. Whoosh! Puff! Countless arrows hit, and a large amount of damage value floated up. -134. -150. -126. Some of these arrows hit the Iron Rhinoceros, and the arrows entered the body. Scarlet blood splashed everywhere. They screamed twice, and continued to rush forward with their heads buried. More arrows flew past, hitting the skeleton archers. Their condition was much worse than that of the Iron Rhinoceros. Most of the skeletons were shot to death by 3 or 4 arrows, and some were shot to the ground and trampled to pieces by the violent Iron Rhinoceros behind them. Your level 2 arrow tower killed a level 2 violent Iron Rhino, your points +10. Your level 2 arrow tower killed a level 2 skeleton shooter, your points +10. Seeing the reminders that kept appearing, Su Ming burst into laughter. You can get points for killing iron rhinos and skeletons, which can be regarded as twice the points. After a brief attack, Su Ming looked around. Often only the violent iron rhinos rushed to the front, and the skeleton shooters on their backs disappeared one after another. Either it was shot down, or it was shot directly. Caw caw caw. Suddenly, there was a toothache sound of bones rubbing against each other. I saw skeleton archers holding their bows and arrows high, and quickly took out an arrow and put it on the bowstring. Aim at Su Ming's base, draw the bow like a full moon. In the next second, dozens of bone arrows shot towards the base quickly. Su Ming's eyelids twitched, but after a while, he breathed a sigh of relief. I saw those white bone arrows. They were fired quickly at first, but after flying a distance of 50 meters, they obviously lacked stamina, and the arrows suddenly went downward and plunged into the soil. Su Ming also judged that the effective range of these skeleton shooters is about 50 to 60 meters. This range is about the same as a normal level 2 arrow tower. But his arrow towers are all equipped with 3 times the range module, and the attack range directly crushes them. So these skeleton shooters can only be beaten passively, and they can't even counterattack. Iron rhinos and skeleton shooters were quickly shot to death. In less than 10 minutes, the last ferocious iron rhino fell to the ground, howling. The defense is done tonight. Since killing the skeleton archer and the raging iron rhino will drop items, the dropped items are densely packed outside the base at this time. Su Ming observed for a while, and after confirming that there was no danger, he walked out of the base. Walking to the side of their corpses, the strong smell of blood wafted into my nostrils. But he didn't care at all, his attention was all on the falling items. You picked up a lot of stones, stones plus 25. You picked up the blueprint for making the refrigerator. You picked up the ice gem 1. Su Ming's eyes suddenly lit up, it seems that the ice tower can be built. After more than 10 minutes, Su Ming picked up all the dropped items and returned to the base. He began to take stock of today's harvest. Since Iron Rhinoceros and Skeleton Archer were dropping items, I picked up hundreds of items tonight, which was a small bumper harvest. Construction resources. Wood gets 820, stone gets 900, iron ore gets 780. Food 10 kilograms, drinking water 5L. Moreover, he also obtained a blueprint for building. Refrigerator building drawings. Construction needs. Wood, 50, iron ore, 50, iron ore, 50, ice gem 1. After reading the introduction, Su Ming realized that this thing is equivalent to the refrigerator of the Earth and stars. However, it does not require electricity to operate. With a refrigerator, food can be stored for a long time without worrying about food being spoiled in a short time. The problem is, now he only has one ice gem. Frost towers also require frost gems to build. Building an ice tower is more important. After thinking about it, Su Ming made a decision. Refrigerators are not necessary, and there is no rush to build them. It is more important to strengthen the defense capability of the base. He took out the construction blueprint of the ice tower, and after confirming the position on the stone wall, he started to build it directly. After consuming corresponding resources such as ice runes and gems, the blueprints turned into thousands of light points, rushing towards the stone wall. On the stone wall, a huge blue phantom emerged. A few seconds later, the phantom gradually shrank and solidified. Boom! There was a loud bang. Su Ming's eyes flashed. On the stone wall, a dark blue ice tower was completed. The ice tower looked about the same size as the flame tower. As he approached slowly, a cold chill hit his face. On the top of the ice tower, there are lines of faint blue patterns engraved. These patterns look extremely mysterious, and they are connected to the ice gem in the center. Ice Tower. Type. Special Defense Tower. Level 1. Attack Method. Ice Field. Create a field of ice in the area of 30 meters * 30 meters, cause 20 points of freezing damage per second and have a chance to freeze the enemy, and all enemy units that step into the field will slow down their attack speed and movement speed. Consumption. 20 points. Attack range. 200 meters. Charge limit. 0.001. Minimum charge. 20 ice power. Charge per second. 4 points. Introduction. A special defense tower that can gather and use ice elements to attack, and the released ice field can greatly slow down the enemy's offensive. Remarks. Manual attack and automatic attack can be set. Read the introduction carefully. Su Ming discovered that the ice tower and the flame tower have the same effect. They are all charging attacks, and to his surprise, the charging module on the flame tower is also effective on the ice tower. The difference is that the ice field released by the ice tower does not do much damage, and is biased towards auxiliary functions. Moreover, the ice field is a continuous skill. As long as the ice energy is sufficient, it can be continuously released until the ice energy is exhausted. He calculated that after being filled with ice energy, plus the energy recovery per second, can continuously release the ice field for 62 seconds. The deceleration time of more than 1 minute can already be delayed for a long time, enough for an arrow tower to attack hundreds of times. Su Ming is very satisfied with the ice tower. Although it is not a damage-type defensive tower, its auxiliary effect is too strong, and there is no need to worry about being attacked by some disaster creatures. After the construction was completed, Su Ming returned to the bedroom. Lying comfortably on the big rosewood bed, he opened the trading platform. The frost gem has been hanging on the top for a day or two, but no one has come to trade with him yet. It seems that the explosion rate of ice gems is a bit low. Su Ming closed the trading platform with some disappointment. Late at night, sleep. Wrapped in a golden velvet quilt, he fell asleep comfortably. The next day, Su Ming woke up from a sweet sleep. He habitually holds the container and is about to water the spirit fruit tree. Squeak. Push open the wooden door. A strong fruity aroma hits the face, making people feel refreshed. Su Ming sniffed his nose, feeling that the smell was very familiar, and looked up. The spirit fruit tree is ripe. As far as the eye can see, the spirit fruit tree has grown 3 to 4 meters high, with branches and leaves scattered, very lush. Moreover, the spiritual fruit tree was already covered with bright red fruits, and it was obvious that most of the fruits were already ripe. He counted, and there were 70 or 80 spiritual fruits in this batch. Each piece of spiritual fruit is very big, a little bigger than a fist, and the skin is red and bright, making people salivate. Su Ming immediately stepped forward to pick one, and washed it in the water. Opening his mouth, he took a big bite. The fruity aroma is scurrying in the mouth, and the water is very abundant. Every time you chew, the juice flows sideways. The sweet taste of the spirit fruit also had a hint of sourness, which made the corners of his mouth salivate. I haven't eaten such delicious fruit for a long time. One bite after another, soon there was only one core left in this piece of spiritual fruit. After eating, Su Ming felt that there seemed to be a stream of air circulating in his body, which was cool and very comfortable. He suddenly remembered that eating this spiritual fruit seemed to slowly strengthen his body. He clenched his fist, wondering if it was a psychological effect. He felt that his strength seemed to be a little stronger. Taking out the pannier from the house, Su Ming began to pick these spiritual fruits one by one. Soon the basket was full, and he carried it back to the empty house and started picking again. Half an hour later, all the ripe spiritual fruits were put into the basket. Only a small batch of fruit that is about to ripen is left on the spirit fruit tree. Su Ming carefully arranged the freshly collected fruits. Counted. There are 55 pieces in total. He couldn't eat so many spirit fruits. Open the trading channel. As soon as he opened it, he saw that his private message bar kept beating. Someone to contact. Could it be the ice gem? Su Ming's spirit came instantly. When I opened it, it was a man named Lu Jing. Boss Su Ming, I have a special blueprint here, I believe only you can use it attached. There was no mention of ice gems in the words. But Su Ming became interested. What kind of special drawings can only be used by me? Click on the picture. Storm Chariot Building Blueprint. Chariot drawings. Su Ming was shocked. He had never seen such a drawing before. Look down for a detailed description of the chariot. Description. An extremely rare blueprint for making a chariot. It is both offensive and defensive, and at the same time, it is extremely fast. It can be called the incarnation of the wind and is known as the mobile fortress. Further down, it is the building materials of the chariot. Crafting materials. Refined iron, 1000, mithril, 100, wind gem 3, wind rune 3, power imprint 1. After reading the materials, Su Ming burst into tears. Refined iron alone requires 1000 units, which is 5000 units when converted into iron ore. It is simply a big iron swallower. As for other things, he had never heard of them. But from the looks of it, it is obviously a more precious item than refined iron. But if you can collect materials to build it, you don't have to stick to the base, you can go out and explore. Su Ming was tempted, but kept his face down so that the other party would not open his mouth and replied. This chariot looks good, but it requires too many rare resources, and it can't be built now. Lu Jing, boss, think about it, it doesn't matter if you can't make it now, with your strength, you will be able to collect materials soon. When the time comes to drive a chariot and crush disaster creatures all the way, it will be extremely cool. Su Ming, I don't know how long it will take to collect all the materials in the future. How do you want to exchange? If it is reasonable, I can think about it. Lu Jing, boss, if I need food, I can exchange it with 5 caddies of food, okay. Seeing this, Su Ming thought for a while, agreed, and traded the blueprint of the storm chariot with 5 spiritual fruits. With the blueprint in hand, all you need to do now is to collect the materials. He opened the trading platform and pinned a transaction message to the top. Buy mithril, wind gems, wind runes, and power imprints, some private messages. After the release is complete, close the trading platform. Immediately, he took a shovel and a hoe and began to clean up the residues of corn stalks, wheat and other crops. At the same time, more new planting areas began to be cultivated. When he finished reclamation, There were 2 more 8-square-meter planting areas on the left and right sides of the house. Wiping the sweat off his head, he looked up at the sky. The sun was already setting. The day is coming to an end, and the night is coming again. After resting for a while, Su Ming walked up to the stone wall and sat down on the wicker chair. At this time, the sky was already gray. Open a chat channel. Calamity creatures are about to strike, and everyone chats enthusiastically in the group, looking for a sense of security. It's evening, and disaster creatures are coming again. Can't these disaster creatures stop for a few days? They come every night. If they don't come, they won't explode the items. God bless, let me survive tonight. It's getting dark, everyone pay attention to defense. At some point, night had already fallen, and the roars of calamity creatures resounded on the silent plain. Su Ming closes the chat channel. Standing up slowly, looking into the distance. In the darkness, groups of black shadows moved. Tread, tread. The sound of hurried and noisy running was getting closer. In less than a minute, tonight's calamity creature appeared in front of Su Ming. These are a group of giant wolves with pitch black hair, their bodies are as tall as a person, and their eyes are full of coldness and cruelty. Tier 2 Mutant Wolf. HP. 700. Action Speed. 15 meters per second. The mutated wolves have a strong body and a fast attack speed. But the arrows shoot faster. Hundreds of arrow towers can shoot thousands of arrows in a second. Like raindrops, it enveloped the wolves. Puff. -145. -134. -129. The sharp arrows easily shot through their bodies. A large number of mutant wolves fell to the ground howling before taking 2 steps. Pieces of mutated wolves were harvested and fell down like weeds. In less than 5 minutes, all the mutated wolves were dead. After defeating the monsters, collect the spoils. Su Ming clapped his hands and walked down the city wall. He pushed open the iron door and just took 2 steps when he suddenly frowned and looked into the distance. Rumble. There was a noisy and vibrating sound. There are also disaster creatures. Su Ming was startled, turned around and ran back to the base, and closed the iron gate forcefully. He walked up the city wall, and in the darkness, flying monsters rushed out like a tide. Why are there 2 waves of disaster creatures tonight? Su Ming was puzzled. Except for a few waves of monsters coming during the disaster frenzy, there is only 1 wave of monsters every night on weekdays. He opened the chat channel, ready to see what other people were doing. Phew, the defense was successful tonight, and it took another day. I'm done defending too. Fortunately, the disaster creatures are not strong tonight. Haha, brothers, go pick up items. In the channel, no one mentioned the 2 waves of monster attacks at all. Su Ming turned off the channel suspiciously. Look into the distance. Suddenly, he saw a new wave of disaster creatures coming out of the darkness. Off base. The junction of white light and dark. In the air, bat-like calamity creatures flew out in groups, and they seemed to be in large numbers. They have long pointed ears, a pair of glass ball-like eyes filled with scarlet light, grinning, and the flickering of 2 big black wings, causing noisy vibrations. Tier 2 Dark Night Bat. Health. 400. Action Speed. 25 meters per second. These bats are extremely fast, and they can fly more than 20 meters with a flap of their wings. Call out. Densely packed arrows pierced through the air. In an instant, the front of the bat group was blocked by countless arrows. They flapped their wings desperately, trying to avoid the arrows. But the arrows were so dense that it seemed to form an impenetrable wall in the air, and it was impossible to escape. Puff. Squeak. The sharp arrow entered the body, pierced them directly, and shot at the bat behind. Often 1 arrow can pierce 2 or 3 bats. Immediately, the dense crowd of bats began to fall to the ground like rain. And above the ground, toad-like disaster creatures jumped out of the darkness. These toads are very big, half a meter high, lying on the ground, and the pus oozing bumps on their backs or undulating, which looks very disgusting. With a single hop on their thick legs, they can jump 10 meters. Tier 2 Poison Frog. HP. 600. Action Speed. 10 meters per second. Swish. At this time, a part of the arrow towers had already aimed at them, and a large number of sharp arrows flew towards them. Croak. Suddenly, the cheeks of these poisonous frogs puffed up, their mouths opened wide, and they shot a black water arrow, hitting an arrow precisely. This and the arrow were instantly cut in half. Call out. One arrow was destroyed, but there were still 9 sharp arrows whistling behind the arrow. The poisonous frogs panicked instantly, puffed up their cheeks, opened their mouths, and wanted to shoot water arrows again. Puff! The swift arrows did not allow them to shoot water arrows, and shot directly into their soft mouths. Some arrows hit the pimples on their backs, and the pus splattered, which looked very disgusting. -247. -238. Floating with a burst of high damage values, the poisonous frogs fell to the ground one by one. But the number has not decreased at all. In the endless darkness, more poisonous frogs continued to emerge. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, there was a violent vibration in the darkness, and the ground trembled slightly. Are there any disaster creatures? This abnormality also caught Su Ming's attention. The noise was not noisy, and it didn't look like many monsters were attacking. Boom, boom, boom. The vibration became louder and louder, which meant that the unknown creature was getting closer. Suddenly, a huge figure sprang out from the darkness, leaping high into the air at such a high speed that Su Ming barely caught its appearance with naked eyes. Boom! This huge body crashed to the ground shook violently, and dust flew up. After it landed, Su Ming saw its appearance clearly. It is completely an enlarged version of the poisonous frog, as tall as a person, with dense pustules on its back, and a pair of big eyes full of indifference. Tier 3 Poison Frog Mutation. Mutations. It's still Tier 3. Su Ming was startled. This is the second time he has encountered a mutated disaster creature. He had encountered a mutating ghoul before. Clearly remember, that ghoul will not only disguise to avoid the detection and attack of the defense tower. It can also devour corpses to restore and strengthen itself. It took a lot of effort before he killed the mutated ghoul. Moreover, that one is just a ghoul that has not yet mutated. Now this poisonous frog has obviously mutated, and it is still at the 3rd level. Call out. As soon as the mutated poisonous frog appeared, most of the arrow towers aimed at it and started a crazy attack. 10 arrows per second. The rate of fire was so fast that every arrow seemed to be connected in a straight line. Just when countless arrows were about to hit the mutated frog, it suddenly puffed up its cheeks, and then opened its mouth wide. Croak. Dozens of pointed water arrows shot out. Clap. The water arrow collided with the sharp sword immediately. In Su Ming's shocked eyes, the arrows of the arrow tower were directly destroyed. The power of these water arrows remained undiminished, and the 2nd generation destroyed 5 or 6 arrows before they dissipated. But at this time, the remaining sharp arrows also shot directly at the mutated poisonous frog. -17, -15, -18, Su Ming's eyes widened with just over 10 points of damage. He saw that these sharp arrows stopped just by inserting an arrow into the mutated poisonous frog. And in the next second, streams of thick mucus flowed out from the wound on its body. Chuck. When the mucus touched the arrow, it began to squeak and puffs of white smoke rose. Clap. The arrows were corroded by the roots, and all of them fell to the ground. Very strong. Arrow towers can hardly do him any damage. Su Ming's eyelids twitched. Prepare to control the flame tower to deal with the mutant poison frog. At this time, the huge body of the mutated poisonous frog slightly tilted down, and its thick thighs suddenly kicked out forcefully. The whole body jumped out high, forming a parabola in the air. Finally, it landed on the ground with a bang, and with this jump, it directly jumped out of a distance of 30 meters. At this time, it was only less than 50 meters away from the base. If it jumped once or twice, it could directly threaten his base. Your level 2 arrow tower kills a level 2 night bat, your points +10. Your level 2 arrow tower kills a level 2 poisonous frog, your points +10. During this period of time, the arrow tower didn't stop for a moment, outputting crazily every second. The dark night bats and the poisonous frogs have almost been killed. There are only a few scattered monsters left outside the base, so there is nothing to fear. At this moment, Su Ming's attention was completely on the mutated poisonous frog. More than 90% of the arrow towers were all aimed at the mutated poisonous frog. The overwhelming rain of arrows shot away, the strong wind was fierce, and the sound of whistling and piercing the air continued to resound. Just when these arrows were about to hit the mutated poisonous frog, It bulged its cheeks, opened its mouth wide, and suddenly spit out thick black smoke, blocking its front. Chi-chi. Countless arrows shot directly onto the cloud of smoke, making bursts of corrosion sounds, and wisps of smoke floated out. Encountering the smoke, these menacing arrows suddenly lost momentum and fell directly to the ground. Su Ming glanced at it. The arrows on the ground have been completely rotted, and the original appearance cannot be seen clearly. It seems that the arrow tower can't deal with the mutant poisonous frog. His expression gradually became serious, and he began to control the flame tower, aiming at the position of the mutated poisonous frog. Between eyes flashing, flame storm, boom, the flames suddenly bloomed like petals, the dazzling red light instantly reddened the sky, and a scorching wave of air came over the surface. The extreme flames devoured the mutated poisonous frog in an instant. The dark and dense smoke was burned out at a speed visible to the naked eye. Gah! In the flames, the mutated poisonous frog made an extremely painful sound, which resounded through the sky. -400, -398, -401, every second, there were nearly 400 damage jumps, and the sound of the mutated poisonous frog became weaker and weaker. It's over. Su Ming stared at the place where the flames erupted. In an instant, a huge figure suddenly jumped out of the flames. When it landed, the ground shook violently. It was the mutated poisonous frog. Not dead yet. Su Ming was startled. The vitality of this mutated poisonous frog is really tenacious. His whole body skin was scorched black by the flames, and a piece of blood-red muscle was exposed on his back. It stared at Su Ming with indifferent eyes, full of fury and killing intent. Although it didn't die just now, it was also severely injured. Cuckoo. Suddenly, the cheeks of the mutated poisonous frog puffed up, obviously about to attack. Seeing this, the corners of Su Ming's mouth curled up. Already controlling the ice tower to target the mutated poisonous frog. Ice field. All of a sudden, Su Ming felt a blur in front of his eyes. Outside the base, the area has turned light blue. An icy coldness swept over, the pores of his body shrank instantly, and goosebumps suddenly appeared, making him shiver involuntarily. Glance. At this moment, the mutant poison frog's whole body was covered with a thin layer of ice crystals. Every movement of it became extremely slow, and even blinking seemed to use up all its strength, which seemed very difficult. Click. Suddenly, cracks like spider webs appeared on the surface of its huge body. Click, click, click. In the next second, these cracks spread suddenly, and its entire skin seemed to be torn into individual pieces of flesh, which looked terrifying. This is after it has just been baked at a blazing high temperature. It was frozen again in an instant. Its skin and muscles couldn't bear such a huge temperature difference and began to crack. Looking at the dying mutant poison frog, Su Ming smiled. He had a hunch that after killing him, there might be a big explosion. Take advantage of his illness and kill him. Call out. Countless arrows rushed towards him. Puff. -128. -134. -130, without the hard outer skin, countless arrows shot into its body without hindrance. In a second, the mutated poisonous frog was like a hedgehog, full of arrows. Your level 2 arrow tower killed a level 3 poisonous frog mutation, your points +300. Finally killed. It's not easy. Su Ming sighed, and at the same time looked expectantly at the mutated poisonous frog. Suddenly, a silvery white light came into view. It was a mass of blinding white light, larger than anything it had seen before. You can faintly see the appearance of the items inside. Treasure chest. Su Ming couldn't help breathing quickly. The last time he opened the bronze treasure chest, he got a lot of good things. Taking a deep breath, he scanned the base and confirmed that there was no crisis. He quickly pushed open the iron gate and walked directly outside the base. In a few seconds, he ran to the treasure chest. Upon closer inspection, it was a silver-white treasure chest. The dense pattern engraved on the body of the treasure chest looks very mysterious and mysterious. He holds out his hand. Ding! You picked up the silver treasure chest. A beep sounds. Su Ming suppressed the excitement of opening it immediately. After spending 20 minutes, he picked up all the items outside the base, and returned to the base excitedly. Take out the gleaming silver treasure chest and open it directly. Suddenly, a dazzling white light shot out from the treasure chest. Ding! You opened the silver treasure chest. Ding, you got the blueprint for the construction of the lightning tower. Ding, you got the blueprint for building the megalithic tower. Ding, you got the blueprint for the construction of the lightning tower. Ding, you got the blueprint for building the megalithic tower. Ding, you have obtained the blueprint for making armor-piercing arrows. 3 drawings. Su Ming's eyes widened, and the joy was beyond words. He picked up the drawings and looked at them one by one. Lightning Tower Construction Blueprint. Type: Special Defense Tower. Description: Release mysterious and powerful lightning energy to attack the enemy, which will cause a devastating blow to the enemy. Construction required: wood, 500, stone, 500, iron ore, 500, lightning gem, 1, lightning rune, 1. After reading the message, Su Ming understood. This lightning tower is similar to the ice tower and the flame tower, both of which are special defense towers. Each special defense tower has the ability far beyond ordinary towers. He is looking forward to how powerful this lightning tower will be. But he is currently short of gems and runes, and cannot be built for the time being. He looked at the next drawing. Big stone tower construction drawings. Description: The upgrade blueprint is hidden. After using it, all your catapults can be upgraded to more powerful megalithic towers. Precondition: Catapult 1. Construction resources: wood 50, stone 50, iron ore 50. And hidden upgrade blueprints. Su Ming was stunned. The prerequisites require a catapult. As it happens, he happens to have a catapult. Use the drawings directly. In the next moment, the construction blueprint of the megalithic tower turned into thousands of points of light and dissipated. Open the panel of the catapult, and now there is an extra column. It can be hidden and advanced as a megalithic tower. Advanced. Consuming the required resources, advancing. Boom. There was a rumbling sound, which lasted for a few seconds, and everything returned to normal. On the stone wall, a brand new defense tower appeared. This defensive tower is a head taller than the level 2 arrow tower, and it occupies a larger area, almost as large as the 2 arrow towers. The body of the tower is round and made of solid stones. The top of the tower is wrapped with iron bars to form a mysterious pattern, which looks majestic and majestic. Big stone tower. Attack power: 150 to 200. Attack range: 150 meters. Attack speed: 1 × 5s. Passive: Stone explosion. Each attack of the boulder tower, after hitting the enemy, will produce an explosion, and in the area of 3 meters * 3 meters, additional damage will be caused by its own attack power. After watching the panel, Su Ming was shocked. After the hidden advancement, the various attributes of the megalithic tower have been completely transformed. The attack power is already higher than the arrow tower with the 5 times damage module added. Moreover, it also has the passive skill stone explosion, which can cause secondary damage. What's even more awesome is that this damage is still range damage. Of course, the attack speed of the megalithic tower is very slow, only attacking once every 5 seconds. But it doesn't matter at all. It can be compensated with the attack speed module. Sudden, Su Ming thought, since the catapults have hidden advanced blueprints, what about the arrow tower? There is a high probability that there are hidden advanced blueprints. But it's useless to think so much now. He looked at the next drawing. Armor-piercing arrow manufacturing blueprint. Description: The triangular arrowhead made of high-strength refined iron can easily pierce through the solid-scale armor. Armor-piercing effect +50. Precondition: Manufacturing room. Construction resources: 1 root equals wood 1, refined iron 1. Conditions of use: Arrow tower. After watching for a while, Su Ming finally understood the blueprint. First, armor-piercing arrows require a crafting room to build. Secondly, armor-piercing arrows can only be used in arrow towers. He randomly clicked on the attribute panels of several arrow towers. At this moment, there is an extra column on the panel. Special arrow. Armor-piercing arrows. 0/100. Each arrow can store 100 armor-piercing arrows. The release of special arrows can be manually controlled, and its attack speed can be set. This avoids wasting armor-piercing arrows. Having obtained 3 new blueprints, he suddenly had several more materials to collect. Open the trading platform. He posted all the acquisition information of production room, lightning gem, and lightning rune. At present, he has released a lot of acquisition information on the trading platform. In addition to the 3 materials for building a chariot, there is also an ice gem. Unfortunately, it has been so long since the information was released, but no one has contacted him yet. Just when he was about to close the channel, a blood-red notification suddenly appeared, directly covering the entire channel. Warn: 1 day later, the catastrophe frenzy will strike again. Everyone please get ready, collect all resources, and enhance the defense capabilities of your base. Caution: in this frenzy, 5 disaster portal projections will randomly appear in each area, and a large number of elite disaster creatures will descend from them. Warn, comma. The blood-red message was repeated 3 times in a row. For a while, everyone noticed the news. What? The disaster frenzy is coming again. Oh my god, I'm going to cry. It's been a few days this time. After 2 days of safe days, the disaster frenzy is coming again. Do you want to live? It's over, it's over. The projection of the door of disaster appeared next to my base. Quick, acquisition of timber, stone and other construction resources in large quantities. I sell food and drinking water, and exchange them for wood and stone in large quantities. Comma. In an instant, the entire chat channel was blown up. Calamity frenzy. While everyone was frying pans, Su Ming wasn't too worried. Currently, his various resources are abundant. Especially tonight, I fought 3 waves of disaster creatures and gained a lot. He checked his total resources. Points: 7,890. Total construction resources: wood 2,100, stone 1,800, iron ore 1,950. Drinking water: 20 L. Food: 15 kilograms of meat, 50 spiritual fruits, a pile of various vegetables. As long as these resources are used to improve the base's defense capabilities, it shouldn't be a big problem to deal with the disaster frenzy. Su Ming thought about it. Open the build panel. After thinking about it for a few minutes, he decided to vigorously build the megalithic tower. After all, it is range damage. In the disaster frenzy, it is extremely lethal against dense disaster creatures. Build a catapult. After 19 consecutive clicks, 19 phantoms of catapults suddenly appeared on the stone wall. A few seconds later, these catapults were materialized on the stone wall. Immediately, select all these catapults. Advance to the megalithic tower. After the order is issued, the rumbling sound lasted for a while. All the catapults are all advanced to the megalithic tower. At this time, he also spent wood 1330, stone 1520, and iron ore 950. So many resources are spent. Now on the stone wall, there are 5 megalithic towers standing on each side. He plans to keep the remaining resources temporarily unused for emergencies. Immediately afterwards, he opened the points mall and directly entered module in the search bar. In an instant, dense information appeared in front of his eyes. At present, the modules of the arrow tower are basically full, and it is only necessary to put suitable modules on the boulder tower. After a few minutes, he finally searched for a suitable module. First order explosion module, 500 points. It can only be used on defensive towers with explosion damage skills. After being applied, the explosion range of all similar defensive towers will be plus 20%. After spending 500 points to redeem, he spent another 500 points to purchase the first order module upgrade crystal. Use directly. Second order burst module. It can only be used on defensive towers with explosion damage skills. After being applied, the explosion range of all similar defensive towers plus 50%. After being applied, the explosion range of the stone tower has been expanded to 4.5 meters. There are still a lot of points left, and he spends it to start buying other modules. Spend 600 points to get 10 times attack speed module, second order. Spend 600 points to get 5 times damage module, second level. Spend 800 points to get triple range module, second order. The splash module and burst module cannot be used at the same time. Moreover, he compared the two, and the burst module was more suitable for the megalithic tower. At this point, after installing 4 modules, the attributes of the megalithic tower have completely changed. Big stone tower. Attack power: 750-1000. Attack range: 450 meters. Attack speed: 2 times S. Passive. Stone explosion. Each attack of the boulder tower will explode after hitting the enemy, and in the area of 4.5 meters * 4.5 m, it will cause additional damage of its own attack power. Module bonus. Second order burst, 10 times attack speed, 5 times damage, 3 times range. There are 3,890 points left. He decided to keep it temporarily in case of a rainy day. By the way, look at the trading platform, is there anyone trading? He opened the trading channel. Ding, ding, ding. As soon as he opened it, his private message bar kept flickering. So much news. Seeing the 99+ news, Su Ming was shocked. Boss Su Ming, do you have any extra wood and stone? I'll trade you for food. Su Ming, can you lend me some construction resources? The calamity frenzy is over, I will return it to you in double. Boss, do you want the drawing of the whip and candle? As the boss here, I have the blueprint for the manufacturing room, we can exchange it. There are a lot of private messages. Most of them are asking to trade construction resources with him. But they didn't have what Su Ming wanted. Some people even want blank tickets. This kind of person, Su Ming blocked directly, making someone's resources seem to be blown by a strong wind. After he cleared most of the useless information, only a few useful messages were left in the private message column, and they began to reply one by one. The first is the construction drawings of the manufacturing room. Brother, how do you trade the blueprint for your manufacturing room? The other side replied quickly. Boss, I want to build 10 arrow towers, 50 wood and 50 stone each. Su Ming, no problem. The two strike a deal. A production drawing appeared in his hand. Manufacturing room construction drawings. Description. After building the manufacturing room, various tools, weapons, etc. can be manufactured. Construction resources. Wood 50, stone 50, iron ore 50. All resources are complete, and the construction can be started directly. Suddenly, a huge phantom of a house appeared. A few seconds later, a phantom appeared next to the open space of the wooden house. The manufacturing room is completed. Armor-piercing arrows can now be crafted. But now he does not have refined iron, and needs to use a smelting furnace to extract refined iron. Now he still has 1,000 iron ore left, and can extract 200 pieces of refined iron. He took out 50 pieces of iron ore and put them in the smelting furnace. After half an hour, the iron juice flowed out and finally solidified. Ding! 50 units of iron ore smelted successfully. Refined iron +10. Continue to put in 50 pieces of iron ore. He came to the manufacturing room with 10 pieces of fine iron and began to make armor-piercing arrows. 5 minutes later the manufacturing room clanged. Ding! 10 armor-piercing arrows have been built. On the production table, there are 10 thick and long arrows. It looks larger than ordinary arrows. Moreover, the arrowheads of the armor-piercing arrows are huge, all triangular in shape, transparent and bright, with a gloomy cold light, making them extremely sharp. After the armor-piercing arrow was made, he came to the melting furnace again. The iron ore in the furnace is slowly melted into molten iron under high temperature to remove all impurities. After waiting for more than 10 minutes, I got another 10 pieces of refined iron. Afterwards, he put the iron ore into the smelting furnace, and then went to the manufacturing room to make armor-piercing arrows. In order to save time, Su Ming went back and forth between the smelting furnace and the manufacturing room half the night. It's been half the night. He just finished building 200 armor-piercing arrows. After working hard all night, Su Ming was exhausted. Back in the bedroom, he threw himself on the luxurious big bed. Smelling the faint fragrance of rosewood, he fell asleep in less than a minute. The next day, when Su Ming woke up, the sun was already shining. Although he fell asleep in the middle of the night, when he woke up, he felt extremely energetic. Get up. After eating a few spiritual fruits, he came to the workshop. The manufacturing table is already full of armor-piercing arrows. He focused his eyes, and a text message appeared on it. It can be filled into the designated arrow tower, do you want to fill it? After thinking for a moment, he designated the arrow tower filled with armor-piercing arrows. He decided that each earthen wall was assigned 2 arrow towers to fill. In this way, a total of 8 arrow towers can be filled with 25 armor-piercing arrows. Filling. Following the order, the arrows on the production table suddenly disappeared. In less than a minute, all the armor-piercing arrows were filled into the designated arrow tower. He opened the panels of these arrow towers and saw that the column of their special arrows had changed. Special arrow, armor-piercing arrows, 25 100ths. After reading the information, he directly set the special arrow to be released manually. This will prevent the wastage of armor-piercing arrows. Call. After finishing all this, Su Ming breathed a sigh of relief. Now, his construction resources are basically consumed. The remaining wood is 720, the stone is 230, and the iron ore is all used to make armor-piercing arrows. With so many resources spent, his base defense has also been greatly improved. The arrow towers were equipped with armor-piercing arrows, and 20 more megalithic towers were built. Not to mention there are big killers such as the Flame Tower and the Ice Tower. Su Ming felt that he could firmly defend against this wave of disaster frenzy. Suddenly, he slapped his head and thought, Calamity Gate projection. He hurried up the stone wall and looked around. Good guy. With the gate of the base as the front, about 500 meters away from the base, there are 2 black vortices expanding on the left and right sides. 2 Calamity Gate projections. Su Ming couldn't believe his eyes. Is this his luck, still really being targeted by disaster creatures? This time there are a total of 5 portals of disaster projections, and there are 2 next to his base. A disaster gate projection, he is confident that he can defend it. But with 2, he also felt the pressure. But if you can defend it, you will get a lot of items. Su Ming also had a fighting spirit in his heart. Open the trading channel and take a look. Now many people on the platform are selling food and drinking water in exchange for construction resources. As for the items he purchased, there is no news yet. Then, he opened the chat channel. Because the catastrophe frenzy is about to hit, most people in the channel are discussing in full swing. The disaster frenzy is coming in a few hours. I have too few defensive towers, I feel cold. Haha, I have built 50 defensive towers, and I will definitely be able to hold on to this wave of disaster frenzy. I'm so envious. Hey, whoever has extra construction resources, please give it to me, please. Most people are expressing their inner unease and worry. Suddenly, he glanced and saw an interesting message. Who knows what the black vortex that appeared next to the base is? A man named Zhao Peng asked. Black vortex. Brother, congratulations on winning the lottery. That is the projection of the door of disaster. Disaster. Misfortune. Door. Then what should I do now? What should I do? Just lie down and wait for death. I don't want to die. Is it too late for me to escape now? Yes, brother, let's add a friend. You come to my place, I will protect you. Watching their speeches, Su Ming silently sent a sentence. Su Ming, don't be afraid, there are 2 Calamity Gate projections appearing next to my base. As soon as these words came out, everyone was silent for a few seconds, and then one message after another gushed out like a volcanic eruption. 2 projections from the Calamity Gate. Are they real or not? Boss Su Ming, don't be afraid, I believe you can stand it. That's right, you must defend yourself, so that our pressure will be less. Can't hold up to one of them, how about 2? Boss Su Ming, give me all the resources, in case you get cold, it will be wasted. You talk like that, I only need half of the resources. During the chat, time passed leisurely. At this moment, the sky is already gray. Night is coming. Many people silently watched the countdown on the blood-red text. Time passed by every minute and every second, and the frenzy of disaster was coming. Countdown. 3, 2, 1. It has started. Watching the countdown, Su Ming narrowed his eyes slightly, and walked towards the stone wall without haste. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.